Welcome back to the harvesttotable.com video channel, where we help you grow your own fresh produce at home. Today, we're tackling one of the most rewarding crops you can grow: onions. Whether you're aiming for sweet, crisp green onions for your salads, or pungent bulbs for your favorite recipes, growing onions is a journey that every gardener should experience. Let's get started. Onion types and varieties. To begin, you need to choose an onion type and variety. Just so you know, there are more than 500 different varieties of onions. There are white onions, red onions, and yellow onions. There are globe-shaped onions, flattened onions, and torpedo-shaped onions. There are storage onions, slicing onions, and green onions, also called scallions. Let's look first at storage onions. Storage onions form bulbs 2 to 4 inches in diameter. They have thick skins and a potent flavor. They can be eaten raw in salads and sandwiches, or roasted, grilled, or sautéed. They can be pickled or preserved, or used as flavor enhancers in soups and broths. There are yellow, red, and white-skinned storage onions. Yellow storage onions generally keep longer than red or white storage onions due to their higher sulfur content and thicker, more protective outer skins. The increased sulfur levels in yellow onions contribute to their pungency and also help them resist moisture loss and decay, making them ideal for long-term storage. Red and white storage onions tend to have thinner, more delicate skins and often contain less sulfur and, in turn, do not store as long. Storage onions typically need 130 to 175 days to reach harvest from seed sowing, 90 to 120 days from planting sets, and 100 to 120 days from transplants. Next up are slicing onions, also known as Bermuda or Spanish onions. These bulb-forming onions are larger and thinner-skinned than storage onions. They are sweeter tasting than storage onions. Many of these onions, as their colloquial name implies, originated from the island of Bermuda or from Spain. Slicing onions are most commonly used where you want the onion to be a standout ingredient, such as salads, sandwiches, burgers, and garnishes. Slicing onion varieties mature in 120 to 160 days when grown from seed. Next are pearl onions. These are very small, mild-flavored onions used for pickling, tossing whole into soups or stews, or placed in cocktails. They are sometimes called cocktail onions because they fit easily into cocktail glasses. These onions are ready for harvest in 60 to 70 days when grown from seed. Finally, we have green onions. Green onions are also known as scallions, spring onions, or bunching onions. They are grown for their fleshy stalks and grassy tops. Any onion that is harvested early before it forms a bulb can be called a green onion or scallion, but there are specific green onion varieties as well. Green onions are ready for harvest 65 to 75 days from seed. Now let's consider onion growing and day length. When choosing a bulb onion variety to grow in your garden, it is important to know whether or not the variety you choose has a day length requirement. Some bulb onions grow best where the length of daylight is long. Some grow best where the length of daylight is shorter. Daylight hours are longer in the north and shorter in the south. Bulbing onion varieties can be grouped by day length. They go by the names short day onions, long day onions, and intermediates. Long day onions are best for northern gardens. Long day onions need about 14 hours of daylight and 10 hours of darkness each day. Short day onions grow best in southern gardens closer to the equator, where there are equal amounts of daylight and darkness each day. There are also onions, known as intermediates. Intermediate onions are not greatly affected by the hours of daylight and darkness each day. They can grow anywhere, north or south. Your nearby garden center will carry the day-length onions appropriate for your latitude. Now, let's consider how to start growing onions. Onions can be started from seeds, sets, or transplants. Which is best? Well, it depends on your preference and the growing season. Starting onions from seeds allows for a broader choice of varieties. Growing onion from seed is the least expensive way to grow onions, but it requires more time and patience. Seeds need to be sown in early spring, often indoors, to ensure a long enough growing period. Sets are small, immature onion bulbs about the size of a quarter. They were grown the previous season and stored for sale and planting in the current season. Using sets offers the advantage of a quicker time to harvest. Onions can also be grown from seedlings or transplants. Seedlings are more expensive than sets or seeds, but they are already 4 to 8 weeks old. When to grow onions. Onions are cool weather crops that thrive in cool to mild temperatures, especially during their early growth stages. They prefer outdoor temperatures between 55 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit for best growth. Onions are best planted outdoors as soon as the soil can be worked in the early spring. However, they should be protected from a hard frost, which can damage the plants. As bulb onions mature, they benefit from warm, sunny weather to help the bulbs develop fully. That said, they don't do well in prolonged extreme heat, which can cause bolting and reduced bulb quality. If you want to grow onions from seed, a good strategy is to sow seeds indoors 8 to 12 weeks before the last expected frost where you live. This allows for the time that onions need to reach harvest, as much as 3 to 4 months. Plant the seeds about 1/4 inch deep in pots or trays. Place them in a sunny window or under grow lights. Germination will occur in about 7 to 12 days. Seedlings can go in the garden 2 to 3 weeks before the last frost, when the soil temperature has reached at least 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Space transplants 3 to 6 inches apart. Sets can be planted in the garden 4 weeks before the last expected frost, as long as the soil temperature is at least 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Plant sets with the pointed end up. Plant them no more than 1/2 inch deep. To produce mature bulbs, space sets 3 to 6 inches apart. To produce scallions, space sets 1 inch apart. For scallions, be sure the sets are white onions. Lastly, you can sow onion seeds directly right in the garden after the soil temperature averages at least 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Drop or sprinkle the seeds evenly over the soil surface. Gently press the seeds into the soil, but don't cover them, as they need light to germinate. Once the onion seedlings are a few inches tall, thin them out if they are too crowded. Next, where to grow onions and how to care for them. Onions prefer loose, fertile, well-drained soil. Sandy loam with a light dressing of compost turned under is ideal. Turn the soil to a depth of 8 inches to give bulbs loose soil to grow in. Plant onions where they will get at least 6 hours of sun each day. Caring for onions. Onions need consistent moisture for even growth. Give each onion plant about 1 gallon of water each week, either through rainfall or irrigation. Mulching around onions helps conserve moisture, suppress weeds, and regulate the temperature of the soil. Make sure the mulch is pulled away from the plants once bulbs start to form. Keep the area around onions free from weeds to minimize competition for nutrients and moisture. Because onion roots grow close to the surface, be sure your cultivation is gentle and shallow. Onions are light feeders. Add aged compost, or a low nitrogen balanced organic fertilizer to the soil before planting. When plants are about 6 to 8 inches tall, give them a drink of fish fertilizer, and then another about a month after that. Onions grow best near the surface of the soil. For large bulbs, keep soil away from the upper 2/3 of the bulb during the growing season. And now, harvesting onions. Onions can be harvested at different stages of maturity, depending on your preference. Green onions can be harvested when the tops are around 6 to 8 inches tall. Bulb onions are ready as soon as you think they are big enough to use. It is best to bend or break the leaves to the side, called lodging, 2 weeks before harvesting bulb onions and to stop watering. This allows the plant to put its final energy into bulb formation, rather than leaf growth. Bulbs are mature when their tops turn yellow and start to topple. To harvest bulb onions, loosen the soil around each bulb, then carefully lift the onion from the ground, using a trowel or fork, being cautious not to damage them. Gently lift onions from the soil to avoid damaging the bulb and roots. After harvest, let the bulbs dry until the skins are firm and the tops are withered, usually 10 to 14 days. Store the bulbs in a cool, dry, and well-ventilated place until you're ready to use them. And there you have it. That's how you grow onions from seeds to harvest. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more gardening tips. If you'd like to see our complete guide to growing onions, go to harvesttotable.com and enter Grow Onions in the search bar. Thanks for watching today, and as always, happy gardening. See you in the next video.